I'm Courtney Kitzmiller. I'm from Champlain College, and I'm here with some fellow students from my online journalism class, also at Champlain College. Why don't we start with some introductions?
Hi, I'm Artemis Walsh. I use she, her pronouns. I'm from Eastern Massachusetts, and I'm a professional writing major.
Hi, I'm Violet Bell. I'm a second year at Champlain College. I'm a professional writing major, and I'm from Connecticut.
Hi, I'm Quinn Canner. I'm a senior professional writing major, and I'm originally from Brevard County, Florida.
All right, so very recently we had the midterm elections. Why don't we start with whether or not you guys voted and why or why not?
I voted in the midterm elections. I voted absentee for Massachusetts. Why I voted, mostly it's out of I've had a lot of conversations with people about the usefulness of voting and whether it's worth it or not. And my basic policy at this point is vote on election day, and then the other 364 days of the year, do other stuff on the ground, on the street, political action, to make sure that my voice is heard all 365 days.
Nice.
I voted in Vermont, I applied to vote in Vermont, and I decided to vote because I knew it was very important and I wanted my voice to be heard.
And I voted in Florida through an absentee ballot because Florida had quite a few very important races and initiatives on the ballot this year. So we had a really tight governor race and Senate race, which are still happening. But we also had our attorney general up for election, in addition to initiatives about banning indoor vaping and oil drilling, and of course letting felons have their voting rights reinstated.
All right. Well, I'm glad you guys talked about where you voted, absentee or in-state. Would you like to discuss the process that you went through to either vote in-state or go through absentee ballots?
It was a lot of forms, and I was very tired for most of it, and a lot of it involved calling my parents and asking for help because, yeah. It was a lot of paperwork, but it was worth it too. Yeah.
All right.
I went through turbovote.com, and that was all I really did.
Would you like to talk more about what turbovote.com is, how it helps in the process?
It's just like this online form where you just fill out where you're from, and that's really it. All you really did was supply your address, and it went to town hall, and it got improved, and that's all that happened with me.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I registered to vote all absentee. So I registered my first year of college, and I mailed in a form from Vermont already, I believe, though it might have happened December before I left. So I mailed from Florida. And then the way my county has it is you can actually register for absentee ballots for up to 4 years at a time of elections. So I filled out a form my first year of college saying I wanted primary and general election, both ballots for the next 4 years. And I've been getting them ever since.
All right, then. So as far as the last midterm election is concerned, were there any particular issues that you felt strongly about? And how did you see these issues covered in the media?
Massachusetts had a vote on whether to keep transgender protections, so basically anti-discrimination protections for transgender people. The third ballot question was whether to keep those or to do away with them. So there was a big yes on 3 campaign. I obviously voted yes on 3, and it ended up winning. So I'm very happy about that.
In Burlington, there was a vote on whether or not to fix up Burlington High School because it's really old and it's kind of falling apart. And I thought that was really important because high schoolers need a good place to learn, or else they're not going to learn at all.
Yeah, in Florida we had a number of important and some might controversial issues up for voting this midterm. And a number of them did actually get national attention. For example, the late night talk show host John Oliver did a segment on the felons getting their voting rights reinstated. But also some of the other late night comedians made fun of how our amendments were done, because Florida likes to combine completely different issues into one amendment. For example, banning indoor vaping and outdoor oil drilling was the same amendment. So you were either for both or against both, and you had no other options. We also had a couple that had very misleading titles, which was always fun to process. And then our Senate race and gubernatorial race also got national coverage because of just the various, the polarization of the two candidates. You see that less with the Senate election, I guess, where in state, I think that one mattered a lot more to us, because you have two very different politicians who are both well-known names to Floridians, where Bill Nelson has been in that seat for as long as I remember. So probably since the early 2000s. And then Rick Scott's our former governor, who was pretty unpopular, even with the people who vote Republican. But I guess he can do less damage to the state of Florida as senator, as opposed to some of the stuff he did as governor. And then our gubernatorial race was receiving a lot of national attention on all of the major networks and talk shows and really everywhere, because you had a very liberal Democrat through Andrew Gillum, and then you also had a Republican DeSantis, who was being endorsed by Trump and very much running his election Trump style.
All right. Well, so I was wondering, what kind of encouragement did you get from different types of media? How did you see any types of media that specifically encouraged you to vote, and how so? And how did the college, Champlain College, encourage you to vote as a student?
The college obviously encouraged us to vote a lot and stressed the importance of the democratic process. I've been involved with a lot of discussions about how useful electoral politics actually is, the degree to which candidates are beholden to an establishment system, whatever your opinion on that, and so not so much questions about saying not to vote as questioning the fruitfulness of voting as opposed to other tactics.
Right.
I feel like Champlain College was really helpful in encouraging us to vote, especially with they had groups that went down to vote on election day, and I felt like that was really nice. For me personally, I was gonna vote anyway, so nothing really pushed me that much. In fact, after a while, all the heavy push to vote from social media and people in real life made it kind of not difficult to vote, but very annoying, and I understood why people did not want to vote after that point.
Yeah, I was seeing a lot of encouragement to try and get people to vote on social media. A number of celebrities were tweeting out. I know Anna Kendrick tweeted out, "Hey, register to vote, and here's a link." And then I also was seeing on late night talk shows, people like Seth Meyers and John Oliver were really encouraging people to take democracy into their own hands and make sure that they're exercising their right to vote. And then in terms of Champlain, they definitely were trying to make sure all students could vote. And that didn't quite help me when I had sent my absentee ballot out a month before the time they were really talking about it. But I know I had one of my bosses in the Office of Admissions who told us that if we couldn't get to the polls, if we just had no time, we could take off work and use our shift that day to walk down.
Right. All right. So as a final question, I'd like to know your opinion on how you think the media covered the midterm election. Do you think that their portrayal was accurate, and did it cover the necessary issues at hand?
I think I heard there's a lot of different things. The national election, obviously, it got a lot of coverage. I didn't hear a lot about the Massachusetts Senate or governor races, because Warren and Markey and Baker have all been in their spots for a very long time, and so, and Democrat is, Massachusetts is a very blue state, and so I didn't see a lot of talk about that except in like the Boston Globe and other local papers that I followed. But I definitely felt there was a lot of important coverage of the elections, and definitely for states that, for like the Democrats who were trying to flip the House and the Senate, that coverage was definitely probably important for those states that could be flipped.
All right.
I feel like the media didn't really pay attention to Vermont, which is fine, because Vermont's a very weird state politically. But I feel like they covered the national election very well, and that's really all I have to say about it.
You said that you think Vermont is weird politically. What do you mean by that?
Well, we love Bernie, which is good, but our governor is a Republican who's kind of not really a Republican. He's kind of strange. I don't hate him. He's nice.
That's how it is for Massachusetts too.
Yeah. I know I heard from like a friend of mine that the Republican governor was voted in because he was more Democrat than a Democratic governor at the time. And I think that says a lot about Vermont.
I mean, for Florida, the media coverage is still ongoing because we haven't concluded results yet. The deadline for the first round of recounts was 3 p.m. today, so haven't had a chance to check yet because I'm in class. But I know a lot of the stuff like the recount has been getting national attention. I Googled it a couple hours ago to try and check in on how things are going, and the first result that came up was Fox News, which is its own thing. But I think pre-election, am hesitant about the amount of national coverage the state elections are getting, because at the end of the day, it's the Floridians who are voting in Florida and not people from California or New York City. And my roommate is from Texas and was dealing with a very similar thing, where it's great that people in Vermont have opinions about Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones voting. Just like in Florida, it's not Vermonters who are voting on who gets to be governor or senator. And I think that sometimes the national media doesn't pick the most important aspects of the ballots to highlight. And this year was a little different because obviously getting felons the right to vote, which was, I think, one of the most talked about things, is definitely a huge issue, and it is a national story because it was a ridiculous percentage of the felons who cannot vote live in Florida. So it's on a national scale, but a lot of the things like who's going to be our governor, who's going to be our senator, it's more of an issue that affects us, especially with governor. That's an internal issue. So having people out of state tell me how I should vote is always weird because at the end of the day, it's my state and I'm the one who grew up there. So I'm more familiar with the issues and what that policy is like.
All right. Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you very much for taking the time to sit down and answer them with me. Very much valued your opinions on this matter.
Of course.
Thank you.